This is Abundantly Clear, a Malorie podcast designed to help you further understand the concept of abundance and put it into practice to build the business and life of your dreams. We'll be breaking barriers of conditioned belief, the standard rules of marketing, and empowering you to achieve real success, allowing you to make a greater impact and live a fulfilled, purpose-driven life with ease. Welcome to the conversation, the stories, the science, and the synergy of living life abundantly clear. Now, on to today's episode.
Hey, and welcome to this week's episode of Abundantly Clear. Today, we have Hollywood success coach Erica Wernick on with us live. Erica, we're so glad you're here and welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I really am really excited to chat with you today.
Me too. So, Erica, question for you. Are you Hollywood's only success coach?
To my knowledge, that is why I gave myself the title Hollywood's leading success coach. You know.
It's such a fun concept. I'm super curious. Did you just decide like Hollywood needed this? Hollywood needs a success coach and I am the person to do this, or how did that come about?
It's kind of crazy how it came about. I mean, I worked in television for 10 years and it's actually kind of funny. A long story. I don't want to tell the whole story and bore you, but basically in 2013, I wrote a book called LA Bound, The Ultimate Guide to Moving to Los Angeles. And it was really just because, you know, my mother was meeting someone in the supermarket whose kid wanted to move to LA. And this happened all the time. And she was sending them my way and they were asking me questions about moving to LA. And I was just tired of saying the same thing over and over again. And I wanted to be like, here's a book, just take this and go. I mean, I'm all about helping people, but I just kept repeating myself. And I thought it would be a really fun design project for myself. I'm a graphic designer. So I designed this ebook, sold it, and it started this whole journey of building a little business called LA Bound. And that was not super intentional. Like, it was extremely organic. And I was doing this while I was working on TV shows. And I was like, oh, this could be cool to make some extra money. I did start my whole, I would say, success journey 10 years ago when I moved to LA. You know, I was reading Jack Canfield. I was going to workshops with James Malinchak. So I guess I had the entrepreneurial bug a little bit. But in terms of becoming Hollywood success coach, it wasn't really that much of an aha intentional thing. It grew organically. So through my LA Bound stuff, I had a podcast and a blog, and I found myself really talking so much more about succeeding in Hollywood, not moving to Hollywood. I was like, I don't give a shit anymore about how much it costs to ship your car. I just want to tell you how to be successful, okay? And also I started just having a few people in my peripheral life of, you know, people who were kind of, I don't want to say failing, but they just weren't getting to where they wanted to be. And I could very easily see why. So that's kind of how it organically led that way. And then I do remember working with a life coach, and I did have a moment one day where I said, I think I want to be Hollywood success coach. Like it was like a little bit of an aha moment, but it grew from such a long organic path, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So it was never like, oh, I moved to Hollywood to do this. I moved to Hollywood to be a graphic designer for television. So I did that. And it wasn't until a couple of years ago where I started really wanting to make this a full-time thing.
Amazing. So pretty much the whole thing was just this organic pathway into where you are now and what it is that you're doing.
Yeah, definitely. You know, it's funny because when I first started reading Jack Canfield's book, The Success Principles, I definitely had an idea. And I think I said it out loud even. This was probably 9 years ago. I remember thinking, gosh, it would be so cool if I could take this type of information and translate it to a younger generation. Not that, I mean, younger people, his book is great. Like that's not even like a thing that is needed now, but I think I was thinking like, oh God, like I want to help people like my friends or my age, you know, be successful in their life in the way that Jack is talking about in this book. So I think I had a little bit of that spark all those years ago, but again, it wasn't a super intentional path.
Awesome. And when you found yourself seeing these people and you can spot it, you can pinpoint like, I know that they can reach this next level of success if only this thing happened. Those things that you kept finding that you were able to spot, were they more of a mindset thing? Was it the action that they were taking, or what was missing to leverage them in their next level of success?
Yeah, I mean, it's so funny because I'm talking about Hollywood, but this really applies to everything, everybody's life, you know, so I'll speak more broad, but it's really a combination. It's first, I would see the strategy, and then I realized that they're not taking the strategic actions because of the mindset. Yeah. So it is the strategy. And it's really interesting because I love strategy. And I feel like that's why my career took off so quickly in Hollywood. But I didn't have some of the mindset issues that I see a lot of people have because I was studying this stuff. So, you know, for so long. So I already had those lessons in my brain. And so the people that I'm like, oh my gosh, what? Like I had this actress friend and I'm like, what is she doing? Why is she taking that day job? Like she needs to be out there auditioning. And then when I started digging deeper, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's the belief system. It's what is in her mind that is helping her choose the actions that are not going to lead her to her goal.
Yes. I love that you just said that. I love the way that you just said that because I talk about mindset all the time and mindset's super important to me, but action and strategy are just as important, right? The mindset is the baseline for the thing that you're going to do next. And I think somewhere along the line, we've got like almost two different versions that are showing up in the entrepreneurial world. Like it's just mindset or it's just action. And to hear, you know, from you and the success that you see your clients going through and your own life, how it's been that blend of like the mindset was the preparation for you to take the action just resonates very deeply with me.
Oh, so I love that.
When it came to, you know, putting out an offer, like having someone that you're like, I can help you. This is what it will look like, receiving money, all that kind of stuff. What did that first moment, how did that first client work?
That's a really good question.
Well, because I've never heard, you know, I know you as Hollywood success coach and I'm a coach and I know a million other coaches, but I've never heard of anybody doing what you're doing. And I see the results that your clients are getting and just how much progress they're making in their careers. And it's fascinating to me because it's such a beautiful concept. And I've always wondered, like, how in the world did she decide, like, I'm doing this? And how did she put that first offer out there?
It's because you're asking this, it's forcing me to, you know, figure it out, which is so, I almost want to cry because it's so cool. Because I think looking back, it was like intuitive nudges. If I had to really, I mean, yes, I was working with a life coach, but she really wasn't a coach that was like focused on strategy, you know, on getting that first client and things like that. And so, you know, she really helped with the mindset stuff, but it's crazy to look back. Like now I feel 1,000 times more confident because now I've had lots of clients and I've taken lots of people through the process and I have learned so much. You know, like I remember working with that life coach and saying, what if an actor comes to me? Like, I don't know if I can help an actor. And it's really funny because like 80% of my clients are actors. And so my very first client was a musician. Wait, was she number one or was she number two? I actually can't remember now if she was first. I had two around the same time. It was a long time ago, years ago. And I don't remember Like, I really don't. I wonder if I just blocked it out. I feel like I really struggled in my mind those, initial years of getting clients and stuff. Also, because the confidence wasn't 100% there.
Mm-hmm.
And even now, I still struggle with it a bit. I'm light years ahead from where I was, but the confidence wasn't really there then. And so I never, there's so many great resources for coaches now. Not that there wasn't when I started, but I just wasn't ready for that, I don't think. It wasn't like, okay, let's hire a coach. Let's figure out a strategy. Let's make this happen. My confidence was just not there. I was still building this thing. And because I was essentially creating something that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
There are no Hollywood success coaches. There are tons of people that do similar-ish things for actors. But I love that I get to do it for everybody and not just actors and bring them together. So that was, I guess, challenging in the beginning as well, just figuring that part out. So I don't even remember how on earth I got my first client. My first client didn't even live in LA yet. And she moved to LA in the process of my program of working with me. But yeah, I don't know if it was from my LA bound email list that I have been cultivating. I just can't even remember.
Well, you said a word that sparked out, and that was the intuitive hits. And I think sometimes that's really where things start to just open up and blossom. Strategy is really important, but the intuitive hits sometimes I find are the thing that take the strategy way further than we have the capability to see in mind's eye of what's possible. It's just those little feelings that we get of, maybe I should talk to this person or do this, show up at this event or do this thing. And then the next thing you know, you're having a conversation with someone. And then a week later, they're a client or you're collaborating on something or whatever it is. It's those intuitive hits are really what lead the way.
Yeah, it's so interesting to string them all together, string all the intuitive hits together throughout the past, couple of years. It's interesting. Even when I had that moment of telling my coach, I think I want to be a Hollywood success coach. And I'll never forget that moment because she's super intuitive. And she said, something clicked for her when I said that. She got chills and she was like, I think this is what you're supposed to do. And I was like, God, it'd be so cool to be the go-to person in Hollywood to help people succeed. So I had that inkling of a vision.
That's cool. It was a physical, energetic yes.
Yep.
Awesome.
It was like a download.
Yeah. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
That word totally resonates with me too. I use that word all the time.
I know it's an overused word in our world, but that's what it was. It legit, it was a spiritual download of this is what I should be.
That's awesome. Do you feel just going back to something that you said, feeling sometimes you struggle with the confidence of just the whole essence of it. Do you feel part of that is just you shifting into working with a different level of clients and you and your own growth of where you were when you started and where you are now, and every single up level is challenging you over and over and over again?
I think it's kind of a combination of all of that. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of the confidence is really internal and has nothing to do with my clients and the level that they're at. Mm-hmm. I remember, I said, telling my coach, what if an actor? And then I said, what if someone who's older than me?
All those little stories that come up.
Right. And I also have gotten a lot of backlash through Facebook ads and things like that because I was not an actor. I was a graphic designer in television. And so strangers like to give me a lot of backlash from that. And so I just didn't have as strong confidence. And I had confidence in my knowledge and I had confidence in the tools that I used to succeed in Hollywood, but I just didn't have a ton of confidence in translating that and knowing that it was going to translate well to all these different careers. Yeah. Now I feel much more confident about it. To be honest, I am now looking at, it'd be really cool to work with a slightly higher level client in the industry. And I have like, I have a lot of fears about that. I have a lot of confidence issues about that. Because I have this vision of creating a higher tier mastermind for people that have more credits and people more established in Hollywood. And I've had several coaches tell me, like, why can't you just do this? Because I want it to be with celebrities coming to speak. Like, I want to pay celebrities to come speak. And they're like, you don't need the celebrities. And I'm like, what? Yes, I do. Like, I can't help them. So there's still a little bit of what you were explaining with the levels of where they're at. But for the most part, I think it's internal.
I've seen what you've done in, like, what's it been, a year since we've been friends on Facebook. And I just know, like, continuing to watch what you do is just going to keep exploding and exploding and exploding. And all of these things are going to come to life. Like, the way you show up and own what it is that you're doing and who you're helping, and the client success results. I know I've already said this, but they're just phenomenal. It's just really, really amazing. When you were first getting started, and to point out the one thing that you just mentioned on, like, the Facebook ads, that's something that I think every entrepreneur that's really going against the grain, or even maybe going against the grain of, like, what their parents or their friends think is possible for them, they get a little bit of that backlash of, like, is there really a market for this? And what do you mean you're going to quit your job and do this? What was your experience in that? Because you really went against the grain. I mean, you're like, I'm paving a new way, you guys.
I know. One of the things, I guess you could call it backlash, but it was coming from a loving space. My dad's cousin who lives out here in LA, she's a coach, and she's, she's older, and she's in her 60s, and she's been coaching me all these years just because that's where our conversations go. That's her expertise. Different kind of coach, more like in corporate and stuff like that. But she introduced me to Jack Canfield. She actually went through his Train the Trainer. Anyway, she still kind of talks to me a little bit about, like, her fear of that my market is too small because I'm focusing on people in Los Angeles, and I'm not an entrepreneur who's marketing to every other entrepreneur who lives in the world.
Interesting concept.
Right. So a lot of online marketers market to people in other countries and everywhere around the world. It's more of like a broader mindset, strategy, whatever it is they do. Whereas, like, I'm not even taking clients in New York. So I'm really focused on Los Angeles. And so I've had her voice of, like, her doubts a little bit about, like, because she knows that I want to be multimillionaire level because I just want to buy a house here. That's really all it is for me. Yeah. But so she has a little bit of those fears that she's, vocalized to me, that my market is too small. And so I've had that, but it's interesting because there's just been something in my intuitive heart, my inner being, that's just like, no, like it's perfect how it is. And, like, everybody in LA is trying to make it in Hollywood. It's not like it's a small market. There's tons of people here that I can help. So, and I mean, like, I don't know what my future will look like beyond this. Maybe I'll end up expanding. But I like focusing on LA. I like focusing on Hollywood. It feels right to me. And so I want to believe that my dreams are possible with the community I'm serving.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. And I think there's something to be said about, the whole cliche as it is, but being a big fish in a small pond versus being a small fish in a big pond. They both have, their plus and minuses, positive and negatives to either. But really the back end of it is something that you talk about and something that you do with your clients. And I'd love to shift into that, is really going for what you actually want instead of going for what you think is possible.
Yeah.
I think that's so important, and something that, we get a little, because I've gotten it too. I had a little bit of backlash from certain people that are like, you sure that you can be like, do this coaching thing? Like, what is all this? And then you get into the coaching world, and everyone that's a coach is like, oh, all there is coaches, but really the rest of the world's like, I don't even know who you guys are. It's like this total misconception of what's going on, depending on, what you're looking at online. You've continued to show up over and over and over again, just from that place of like, no, like, I know that this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Do you feel like in the last couple years from that place, it's paid off?
This is the first year I feel it, I'll be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is the first year I hit six figures. It really is. This is also the first year I had some clients book some pretty big things. I had a client on This Is Us this year. Another client just booked his very first TV credit on HBO show. So this is the first year that I really am starting to see the fruits of my labor, I guess you could say.
But that's amazing momentum. And I love that you share that vulnerably, because I think there also is this other perception of seeing what everyone else is doing online and feeling like, oh, I have to figure this out in 6 months. And if I don't, then, I've screwed it all up, or it's not possible, or where, this creation of all these other stories that can come into play when it's a little bit of an exploration process.
Yeah. That's something I have struggled with a lot. And especially with other coaches in the past, they've helped me, just with the comparison thing. And, I'm such a believer of, but so much is possible. Anything is possible, because I do this in Hollywood, and that is, my motto essentially. But, so I come in the entrepreneur world, in the online world of it's totally possible to make $2 million in 1 year, or in the first year, in the first 6 months, or, I struggle with that a lot. And what I kind of feel, because look, this is technically my 4th year in business.
Okay, hold on. I want to stop you for 1 second. It's your 4th year in business and you've hit 6 figures.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Yeah, well, thank you. But there's a ton of other entrepreneurs who do it in 2 years or in 1 year even, right? And so, but I've essentially doubled my income every year, which is really cool. And this is also the first year that I'm doing it full time, because I was still working in television all those years, which is crazy also, because I know a lot of people struggle with, having the 9 to 5 and doing their side hustle. Mine was never a 9 to 5. Like television is like a 14-hour day. So it was, I'll never forget working on a show 2 years ago. And it was at a studio that was like really far. That it's rare that you work on a show there. There aren't a lot of shows there, but it was a 40-minute drive both ways. I was working a 10-hour day, and then having to do this. So this is the first year I did it full time. But I will say that I feel like my journey has been so organic. Mm-hmm. And I think that there's a reason why it took me 4 years to hit 6 figures. I think that everything was like, I had no overnight success. I had no overnight jump. It was very gradual. And I just believe that there's a reason. And again, I'll kind of go back to my confidence stuff. I think that I've just had so much to learn. I've had so much to learn. Like I literally created this job out of nowhere that didn't exist, that doesn't exist anywhere in Hollywood. So I have no one to emulate. You know what I mean? So I've just been figuring out as I've been going. So for me, even though I'm like, why don't I have my $1 million house in the hills yet? And 2018 was the goal year that I had set 5 years ago. And so that's really tough. And when I see these other entrepreneurs in the space making, $500,000 a month, I feel really jealous, but I don't know. There is a part of me that feels like this is how it was supposed to unfold for me.
So when you let all those stories kind of float through the mind, it comes back to I see you're nodding your head on this. It comes back to I know I am where I'm supposed to be at the end of the day. This happened the way that it was supposed to happen.
Yeah. I mean, I was not a confident coach 2 years ago. I just wasn't. So how could I have a higher price and, be pulling clients in all the time to try to get to that 6 figures if I wasn't even really 100% confident in what I was doing? So I think I just needed that time to figure it out. And look, like I said, I still have moments where I'm trying to figure out my confidence. I'm much further than I was, but I think it's okay. And this is the first year I think I've ever said that, but I'm finally seeing the full picture. I'm finally seeing it's okay. This is a marathon, not a sprint. And I have doubled my income every year. So it's not like I'm, I don't know, flailing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just really love the way that you're sharing this, because I work with a plethora of entrepreneurs, but a lot of the clients that I work with are coaches. And that can be something it's a little bit challenging sometimes to really explain the depth of, you can really only take your clients as far as you're willing to go yourself. So, before you have that 6-figure business, you might have some stuff internally that you've got to take yourself through on a personal journey that you get to explore so that you can show up for other people. But because of marketing and all the, life coaching schools, health coaching schools, there's coaching schools all over the place, they don't necessarily go to the depths of what that can look like in someone's personal life of, oh yeah, I have all of these road humps I have to get over before I can really hold space for someone else to also, model their journey and their path in the same light.
Yeah, absolutely. Darn it. I just got distracted of what I was going to say about that. You just said something so good. I just love so much what you said. I just lost my train of thought.
It's okay.
I was just so mesmerized by what you were saying. I'm like, damn, she's got the words. Yes, so good. Yeah. Oh, the internal. Okay. That's what I was going to say. Because of, I have to go through some things. Pursuing a career in Hollywood is so similar to pursuing an entrepreneurial journey. I mean, the parallels are insane. And so I think I have had to go through a lot, and it's so wonderful because I have so many things to pull from and to relate to what they're going through. And I think that's, I'm a super sensitive, emotional person, but I still think it's my superpower as a coach because, I was just telling one of my clients today, they were saying that they were just having a dark day. It was the term they used, and I was like, girl, I've been there before, I was like, I know that so well. Let me talk to you about that. I've been through it. And I think it's really helpful to them when they're going through such an emotional roller coaster to have someone to talk to who has been through those tough times too, or has been through all of the emotions that they're feeling, as opposed to someone that's just like, come on, let's do this.
Yes. And it goes back to that, the belief is what changes the trajectory and changes the action. So how much of what you do with your clients, super curious on this, how much of what you do with your clients is, really helping them reprogram those beliefs and then the action on the other end? What does that kind of look like as far as the one-on-one work that you're doing?
It's funny because my current coach has been helping me with this a bit because I feel like the last 6 months I have been coming more into myself. I've been very influenced by other coaches in the past, and I kind of lost my voice a little bit. And so through that process, I was not marketing as much or talking as much about, hey, I'm going to do mindset work with you, and I was kind of afraid. And I've also had people say stuff to me like, hey, I feel like I'm interested in your coaching, but you keep talking about all this mindset stuff, because now I've been talking about it a lot more, I just want the strategy. And I'm like, okay, you're not my people. Yeah. But it's interesting because with my clients, the majority of what we're focusing on is the strategy. And then we discuss the mindset stuff that comes up as they're implementing the strategy. And with my clients, we do one-on-one, but we have a bunch of group stuff because I'm all about the family, and plus actors meeting writers, meeting directors, and all that kind of stuff, which is great for them. We do these group calls, and we've been alternating every other week, mindset strategy. And I'm like, these are my people, because we're on the strategy call and they're like, oh, wait, that's kind of mindset. Is that okay? I know it's like so hard to talk about strategy and not talk about mindset. Like, I love it because that, to me, they like really get it. Mm-hmm. They really understand the impact that their mind is having on their strategy and on the actions that they are taking. So it's split down the middle. We do both. I mean, yes, I map out a strategy plan with my clients. I'm actually planning a live event right now that's going to be in January that we're going to do both. We're going to do the same thing I do with my clients. I'm going to walk them through a strategy, map it out. But if you don't have the right mindset in place, you're never going to follow through. Like, I have clients that have resistance to some of the actions because a lot of the actions I give them are outside their comfort zone. They're super uncomfortable. If you want to succeed in Hollywood, you've got to put yourself out there in ways that most people will never have to do in their lifetime, and so there's resistance that comes up. So the mindset conversation is consistent always, even amongst the strategic stuff.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. As far as helping your clients, one thing that you and I have talked about before is one of the biggest things you do is helping your clients make decisions based on a place of abundance versus a place of lack. Could you touch on that and what that kind of looks like?
Yeah, I see people in Hollywood. I'm sure it's the same for people in your world, but I see this, I think, is one of the biggest problems in Hollywood in terms of mindset, besides fear, but it's all connected, right? It's like they're making decisions based on lack because of the fear. But, just as an example, let's say you are an actor and you move to Hollywood and you want to make it in Hollywood, and all you hear is the competition. Oh, competition is fierce. Oh, there's so much competition in Hollywood. Oh, when you're submitted, I talk about this, you're submitted for a role from your agent, so are 1,000 other people. And that's not an exaggeration, right? So people hold themselves back because they take that information that is very scarcity based. They take that information and they allow it to dictate their actions. So because of that, they maybe are not putting themselves out there to try to get the right agent so that they can move up into network television and stop doing student films or stop doing non-union stuff, right? So people are making decisions based on the scarcity. I call it the Hollywood crap, the crap that has been put in their minds based on scarcity. And then they're making decisions from there instead of making decisions from a place of, there's room for all of us. There are so many projects. I try to really stress, like, hey guys, I voted for the Emmys this year. There were about 700 television shows that I had to vote on. That's fucking crazy. Sorry, am I allowed to curse on this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, of course.
700. There were like 300 some for comedy and 400 some for drama. There's an abundance of opportunities if you choose to see it. It's which goggles do you want to put on? Which glasses do you want to wear?
Yes, I love that. I actually talk about that in one of my podcast episodes. It's what lens are you seeing things through? Because there's the lens of the beliefs that you've created. And then there's also the lens of like, what is true? And we sometimes don't know how to distinguish that. And that's one thing that having someone just help you hold that space to really distinguish, like, what is truth and what is lie? Like, what are you telling yourself right now just about the number of people that may be showing up to these TV shows? And what does that actually mean about your opportunity? Does it really mean anything at all? Like, does it really mean anything?
Abraham Hicks, she had this great line because, a lot of actors will go to Abraham Hicks, and you can YouTube search Abraham actors, which is great. I have like all of them saved. But she has this great line where she says, it is really challenging. She said, to create in a world where someone else decides your fate is one of the most challenging worlds to create in. She said, but what you don't understand is that they're just all pawns in the law of attraction game. Mm-hmm. Meaning none of that data matters at all in terms of law of attraction. And also, how does it help you to focus on the numbers of the competition? how does that going to help you achieve your goal? Or is that going to hold you back from achieving your goal? Is that going to stop you? Is that going to put resistance in your way? Like, even if there are 1,000 other people being submitted for a role, does that information help you succeed? No, that information is not necessary. Like people always say, oh, do you know how many members there are in SAG? SAG's the Actors Union. How many members there are in SAG and how many actors are actually working? It's like 2%. And I'm like, you are focusing on the wrong data.
Yeah.
How is that helpful for you? And also, you have no idea what the other 98% is doing. You're assuming that 98% is doing everything in their power to succeed. And I talk to a lot of them and I can tell you they're sure as hell not. So yeah. And I think too, with the lack versus abundance, with money too, a little bit, I think that, again, a parallel, an actor, a writer, a director, someone who's starting out in Hollywood, just like an entrepreneur who's starting out. In those beginning phases, your bank account might not be huge. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so people get stuck focusing on that reality. And by people, I mean, I used to do that. Yeah. I really struggle with that as well. And that is a lesson that I'm still learning, but I'm so much more conscious of it now. But I think that people tend to focus on their current reality, their current bank account, whatever. So, like an actor or a writer who's just starting out, they might be really pissed. Like I said, people get pissed when they need to invest in something. Mm-hmm. Like someone might be an actor, might be really pissed that I charge thousands of dollars for my coaching. Right. And it's them focusing on their current circumstances and finding someone else to blame. How dare you charge thousands of dollars for your service? I'm struggling. You need to come meet me where I am. Right. So I think that people get kind of, and maybe people are like that in the entrepreneurial world in the beginning too. I know a lot of coaches have high ticket offerings, and people in the beginning, might be like, well, I'm just starting out. I don't have the money yet. Yeah. And so to me, that's like a really like scarcity based mindset.
Yeah, I see that a lot. And I see how that plays into sometimes the comparison game. And I've even had clients that have asked me questions on that before, because things happen pretty quick for me, but what people don't understand, and they only see it every now and then on a Facebook post when I'm referring back to it, is just because the money was coming in the first 0 to 9 months doesn't mean that I was seeing any of it as far as getting it to spend it for myself. Like all of that money was going directly back into the business, like dollar for dollar. I was living off of hardly anything, but people don't see that. People just see like, oh, wow, this happened for you in a year and a half. And I'm like, no, this happened because the first 9 months looked like this, and even now it's like, it's a growth process. Nothing in the entrepreneurial world, like you're always looking at what am I investing this month and what makes sense for me to try next. And then you start getting into other questions. When you do hit 6 figures, it's like, what does outsourcing look like? And what money should I be spending on this and that? It's like the questions don't stop, and honoring your opportunity to see what's going to work. Sometimes you just have to go for it.
Yes. I mean, so much of, again, both the Hollywood and the entrepreneurial path is about taking leaps.
Yeah. Yeah.
So much. I mean, like we talk about faith all the time because so much of it is believing in Santa before seeing him come down the chimney. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like you have to have that faith in yourself. You have to feel like you are worth taking a leap. I'm obsessed with the quantum leap. Actually, I have it right here. The quantum leap strategy. Have you read this?
I haven't. Awesome. I haven't.
It's the sequel to U Squared.
Okay. Yeah.
It's just, it's really thin. It's super fast read, but it's so great. It really talks about, it's not about trying harder. It's about trying different. It's about taking different set of risks. I mean, taking risks is, the ultimate thing you need to do as an entrepreneur. And in Hollywood too, like I am constantly having to remind my clients and my audience that risk taking is such a huge part of what you have to do if you really want to be succeeding. Like I have people who are like, I dream of being an Oscar winner. I'm like, that's awesome. What risks are you taking to get there? And they're like, well, no, that's too scary. Right. I'm like, well, then how are you going to get the Oscar? They're going to bring it to you, sit in your pajamas on the couch and, present it to you.
Yep. Yeah. I see that one a lot too with like the, I want a 6-figure business or like I want a 7-figure business. And it's like, but do you really? Mm-hmm. Or do you want to think about it? Do you want to think about a 6-figure or 7-figure business? Or do you really want it? Because wanting it and being willing to do it are completely two different things. And if you really want it, then you'll allow yourself to take the action.
Totally. I'm in a weight loss program right now. I mean, I don't think she calls it that. I call it that. But it's, it's fitness and nutrition and mindset, a lot of mindset. And I'm having to learn, it's interesting. I'm having to learn exactly what you just said over and over again in every decision I make about what I'm eating and when I'm working out. And, and it's because I'm back in that student chair. And so it's really interesting to be forced to make those decisions. It's like today when I was like, oh, I have to go to the gym. I was telling you, I have to go to the gym. And I was like, I know if I don't go now, I'm not going to go. I didn't go yesterday. I was so upset with myself. I didn't go yesterday. It's like every decision I make, it's like, well, do you want the goal body that you talk about? Do you want to feel thin and fit and healthy? Because this is what it's going to take, and, my coach talks about co-signing your own bullshit, which I love that phrase because I think in those exact moments that you are talking about making that decision is when we co-sign our own bullshit, right? It's like yesterday when I didn't go to the gym, I co-signed my own, I knew I was doing it. And I ended up working on my business all day. So it's not like I wasn't productive at all, but I kept talking myself like about why it was okay that I was not going. And that's co-signing our own bullshit. And I think it's the same thing here with what you're talking about,
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, I'm looking at you. I'm like, I don't know what weight you're going to lose.
Well, I've already, I'm a little over a month in. So
are you awesome? Awesome.
Yes,
you look amazing.
Yeah. I mean, I've gained, I gained 20 pounds over the last couple of years. And so, I just wanted, I just didn't feel confident. Like I was like, I can't get pictures for my business. I can't be on camera. I don't feel good in my skin. But the mindset piece of what we're learning in that program is, just blowing my mind. And it's like such a bigger transformation than the food or the diet or,
Yes. And mindset is the thing. I did a little bit of health coaching before I started working with entrepreneurs. And that was, you going back to your story of like, well, it was just organic evolution. It was the same kind of thing. You see that in health coaching too. We don't change our habits just because someone tells us to do something. We really have to look at the baseline of the belief going into the thing that we're trying to achieve. And touching on that book that you were referencing just a second ago, it's really cool the way that you're talking about like this faith and we have to surrender. And there's a part of us that has to trust ourselves because there's this whole thing that's happening outside of that I think we don't realize sometimes. It's like there is a science about what that looks like. Like when you choose to trust yourself, you're literally changing like the frequency that you're existing in and allowing more to come in. And when we're stuck in that place of like control and trying to figure everything out and not letting ourselves take a risk, we don't realize that by alone not allowing ourselves the chance to take a risk, we're hanging out in a lower vibrational frequency, which then closes the door on receiving the thing that we most want.
Yep, exactly. And there's a line in Think and Grow Rich that I don't remember the exact words, but essentially it was to feel healthy when you are sick or to feel wealthy when you are poor is the hardest thing to do. Mm-hmm. But when you master that, then you're free. Right. Because that is exactly what it is. It's like you need to vibrate at the frequency of the solution, not of the problem.
And I don't know about you, but the only thing that I see that can change that vibration, that shift, is really looking at the belief work. What is the truest of true that's really a false that's stopping you from making that shift?
Right. Totally. And I think, I try to remind myself and my clients, like, for example, with money, that whatever we see in front of us right now is a result of past manifestation.
Mm-hmm.
So if my bank account is really low right now, that is what I have manifested, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I have to remind myself that what I'm currently doing is manifesting the future, whatever's in my future.
Mm-hmm.
And so instead of sitting here and being upset about my bank account that has been manifested from the past and just being upset with the past, essentially, like every time you are focused on your current circumstances that you are unhappy with, you're essentially focusing on the past because the past created your current circumstances. So to help shift your vibration, to focus on the future that you want to create. Have you read Joe Dispenza?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yes.
Right.
Like all of it.
I'm just obsessed, and I'm still not done his book, and I can't stop talking about it. I mean, it's this whole concept of like everything that we have memorized.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you really have to let go of all of that.
Yeah. And that's really like all the stuff you're talking about. It's so funny because you guys that are listening, Eric and I have really hardly even talked about all this, but everything that she's kind of talking about is in terms of like the stuff that I teach my clients and like other previous podcast episodes. It's so funny. These books are sitting on my coffee table, and something I've talked about before on other episodes, but I want to touch on it now, is what I was seeing in my own journey in personal development was that things didn't really truly take a massive shift for me until I started going to that depth. It was like you hear the personal development, you read the books, I even worked with some coaches, but things weren't really shifting until I went to like the true belief work so that things could take the turn that they had the potential to take. It's like bringing in that quantum world started opening up what personal development really meant more than I think my first phase of exposure to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, me too. I think the personal development world is interesting, now that I'm reading Joe Dispenza and just learning so much more. I think that my experience, at least, and maybe it sounds like how you're describing it, it's like when you first get into this, there's like one layer.
Yes.
Like, oh, okay. I got it. I get this layer. Cool. I'm going to try implementing this. But as you implement it and struggle and implement it and struggle, and then you start reading more, and then you start listening to more, and Abraham Hicks and Joe Dispenza and all this other stuff, like there becomes to be so many more layers of understanding. And I still have a long way to go, but I think my layers of understanding have really grown beyond the surface kind of stuff. And I can see it because when my clients come to me and they're struggling with shit that I used to struggle with, and I'm like, oh, they really don't get it yet, but like that was me not too long ago, 100%. Yeah. So
this is awesome. I've been so, just enlightened by everything that you've shared. I love that you've just like paved the way. It's so unique and remarkable, honestly, and fascinating. If anyone that's listening to this, that's in Hollywood, you work with local, right? So you work with people in Hollywood.
Yes.
How would you suggest if they're hearing this and they are like, I'm trying to get started, or they've gotten started and they're ready to crank it up a notch, how would you suggest they get in touch with you?
That's a good question. I would say first go to Instagram, Hollywood Success Coach. You could check out my website. I also have a podcast, and
awesome.
If you listen to it's the Hollywood Success Podcast, and I think if you listen to it, you'll get a feel of how I work and what I'm about and stuff. I like people to kind of get a sense of that before just jumping into coaching with me. And I have a live event coming up January 26th. I actually have not, I don't know when this is going to air, but
this will be in a month. It'll be out before January.
Okay, cool. I was like, I have not made the sales page live yet for everybody. It's finished. So I'm just excited. I just want to, I'm really focused on reaching more people and helping more people this year. So come find me at any of those places.
Cool. Awesome. Well, I'm so excited, and thank you for hopping on here. We really, really appreciate just hearing your story and everything that you're doing. And it's super fascinating, especially for, coaches that feel like they're just another number in the world of coaching. Like, you're just a true example of it doesn't have to be one way. Your business can be whatever the hell you want it to be. You can do whatever you want to do, and you get to be the creator of that. So thank you for being on here and sharing all this today. It's been really, really awesome.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I could talk about this stuff for like 100 hours. So this was a blast. Thank you so much.
Cool. All right, guys, I will see you next week. Thanks for hopping on today.
Thanks for listening. As you put these concepts and practices into action, you'll begin to see the benefits of living an abundantly clear life. To connect with Malorie and other high performers, join the Abundantly Clear Entrepreneurs community on Facebook or visit malorie-nicole.com.